The wise Koryang once made a video titled "Poker Vloggers Are Lying to You." In that video, he points out the fact that poker content creators have full discretion to choose which hands they want to include and which ones they'd rather pretend never happened. And the truth is, I'm one of those poker content creators. I'm not a good poker player. In fact, I can't even beat low stakes. And today, I'm going to be going over some hands that prove just that. All jokes aside, I'm going to be reviewing a few hands I played in Madrid in Gran Via Casino. And this was my second time ever playing in an actual casino. So, I had a lot of lessons I learned, and I'm going to hopefully be going over some insights from some of these hands. First thing I'll say about Madrid is I think this is a Spain thing, but they play counterclockwise. And I was very confused because I was like, oh, we're going this way. And the guy next to me is like, yeah, we're going clockwise. So I actually thought we were going clockwise, and I was just confused for some reason. But no, we were going counterclockwise. I can't actually remember which one's which. Anyways, first hand, I'm on the cutoff with ace-queen suited, and we have a limper. It's always nice when you see some limpers. By the way, 2-5, this is much higher stakes than I've ever played before. I've played 1-2 before, but all they had was 1-3, and there was like a 12-person waitlist, so this is the best I could do. This is night 1 of 3 that I played at this casino. And anyways, this first hand, yeah, we're obviously going to raise. I can probably go bigger here because in live play, most players are opening to sometimes like 5x or at least 4x. And we have a limper here, so I can go upwards of $30 and likely still get called. Doesn't matter too much here. We get called by the low jack, and the flop is 7 high. Now, you can c-bet on this board for sure. It's almost like a value c-bet since you're ahead of your opponent's non-paired hands, but I end up c-betting for a little under half pot. We get called. The turn's an ace, which is really nice for us. But, if we think about our opponent's range, they do have some ace-x that does hit this turn. Maybe they have like ace-10, ace-jack, something like that. They also do have some 2 pairs here, like ace-3, ace-5. Considering they limped, I don't know if they're going to be limping like ace-jack, ace-10. So something like ace-5 offsuit, maybe ace-3 suited, ace-7 offsuit makes sense. But the player donk leads into us, which is kind of interesting. And it's for a pretty big size too. It's $60. So if we're considering their range, they could have hit 2 pair. I don't know if they would be donk leading per se. Maybe they would, since, this ace came out on the turn. But at the same time, they could just have draws here, like diamond draws. I don't know if they would be doing with straight draws. I mean, there's not a ton of straight draws that should be in their range. But I decided to call here. I don't think raising accomplishes much. We're not really getting called by worse unless it's maybe a draw. River's a 10, which is kind of inconsequential. And low jack checks it over to us. So at this point, we're kind of trying to target maybe just some like weak ace-x. Like maybe they have ace-8 offsuit or ace-6, something like that. So we can't go too big. I go half pot here. I'd be a little too big. Could also be trying to target maybe like 10x if they have the 10 of diamonds as a missed flush draw, but low jack just folds here. Kind of a weird hand because I'm not really used to seeing these donk leads on the turn, especially when we end up hitting the turn. So anyways, take that one down. Next hand, I have pocket kings on the big blind. We have a $15 raise from the cutoff, so this is an easy 3-bet. And then cutoff clicks it back to us, so 130, I think it was. It might have been like 120. And there's something to be said about one of these like min 4-bets, basically. Which is that is often going to be aces because, these players don't want you to fold anything that you're 3-betting here. There's a Hungry Horse Poker video I saw where he actually folds kings pre-flop to one of these raises because it's aces so often. And the guy had 9-8 suited in that hand. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we have pocket kings. I don't think you can ever fold here. And you can call, but I don't have that much behind, so it's probably just going to get in on the flop anyways. And if he ever does have ace-king, we don't want him to see a free flop. So I just ship it here. Then he hits me with one of these. He goes like, which is just the most confident jam I've ever seen in my life. And what do you know? The guy has aces, so I think it's probably getting all in on this flop anyway. So everything about this is kind of just a setup hand. Sometimes you just got to tap the table and get your sorry ass out of the casino, which is what I did. Now his first hand from day 2, I decide to open king 10. and we get a call from the button. Once again, I can maybe go larger, but also, you can see I bought in short stack. These are all euros, by the way. This is not actually dollar amounts. So just pretend that's euros. We have second pair here, best kicker, backdoor flush draw. So I just check, and the guy checks back. Turns an 8. So at this point, maybe you could bet, but I think it's possible button has an ace X, so it might just be value owning ourselves. And it's not super likely that the river is going to be bad for us, so I just check. And he goes $15, so I think we can definitely just call right here, even though we're behind sometimes. And even if we are behind, we can always improve. And what do you know? We actually do improve 2 trips. So it's kind of weird what you do here, because what you're kind of hoping is that the other guy has the case 10 and that he's just going to bet the river and you can raise. But you could also donk lead here. It would probably look really weird and really just like we have the 10 here. So I don't know. I think I like checking more because donk leading is just a little face up. It's not like this guy's really going to check back an ace 100% of the time if he has one. And if he has a 10, he's for sure betting. So I check, and he bets almost full pot. So now if we think about raising here, we can definitely get value from worse. And I don't think we get value on too often. So what do we raise to? I think the only sizing here is all in. We do that, and button tanks for a minute and ends up calling, and we show, and he mucks. So likely had a 10. I don't know if he had an ace. It's possible, I guess, but I don't know if you would call the all in there. So pretty lucky for us, but yeah. End up doubling our stack here. Going into this next hand, we've got ace queen, and we have a limp from the cutoff, so make it 20. I'll stop saying I should go larger, but especially when we're a bit deeper here. We get called from the cutoff. Now we have ace queen. You could see bet here, but I mean, when we don't have a king on a king high board, not only are we just gonna always get called by the king X if we bet here, we're also just not gonna get value from worse hands very often. So I decided to check back, kind of as trying to realize my showdown, and turns a 3, pretty inconsequential. So I just decided to check again, once again, trying to get showdown. And the river's a 6, which pairs the board, and we actually have a bet from the cutoff here. It's $25, so about half pot, and at this point, he's kind of just repping a 6. I mean, he could have a king, possibly, but I don't know if a king would, check all 3 streets until the river. So at this point, I think our hand's actually strong enough that we can just call here. And that's what I ended up doing, and the guy's got ace 7 off. And he tries to call for a chop, too, and the dealer looks very confused. Eventually, the pot does get pushed my way, but yeah, just a little funny. I don't know what this guy was doing. He probably should have just checked the river. I don't know, like, is this supposed to be a value bet on the river with ace 7 when you have ace high, and you could easily just win against, if I like queen jack, for example, or just any high card hand that's not got an ace. But yeah, I noticed in this casino, there was a lot of people trying to bluff me, and I really don't know why, because they would often pick hands that don't really make sense to bluff, but we'll get into that more later. Got pocket kings on this next hand again, and you know what? I don't think we're running into aces this time, unless big blind's got it. So we open 20. I mean, once again, I should have gone bigger than this, especially out of position. This is only 4x. It should at least be 25. Doesn't really matter. We get a call from the button. And yeah, I mean, you can certainly check some of your overpairs here, but I think just, at these lower stakes, it just makes sense. Just go bet, bet, bet. So we bet about half pot, we get called, and turns a 4. Pretty good for us. So I go 50, sizing up a little bit, which I like, by the way. I think maybe you can go 25 on this flop, and it's the same result, but on this turn, you're going 50 just because this 4 doesn't really change anything. I mean, the button could have a 4, but most likely, nobody's improved on this turn. Which is interesting because then we get raised, and something that's important to note is that the diamond draw comes in. So very possible that he has a diamond draw. And it doesn't really make sense to raise anything for value here except for a 4. if he had pocket nines or pocket sevens, I don't think he would have limped the button with that hand. Same with pocket fours. So at this point, I think the only thing that realistically beats us here is maybe like ace four offsuit, maybe like king four suited, queen four suited. Just 4x hands, and yeah, there's not a lot of those that are very feasible here. I think it's actually even more likely that he has a draw than the 4. And we also beat 9-7, so I don't think he's going to be raising 9-7. So it's really just a diamond draw or nothing. Maybe a straight draw that just wants to raise on the turn. But anyways, we call. And then the river's a 7, which I think is like the best card in the deck for us. Maybe a 4 would be slightly better, but in any case, it doesn't hit the diamond draws, and yeah, I mean, it doesn't complete any of the other like weird things that might have had outs against us, like some kind of ace X. Anyways, button bets 200 here, and I think you just have to call here. If he's got the 4, then it's a little unfortunate, but I don't know if you would pick this size with a 4. Maybe because of the 7, you'd want to size down slightly, but I think this just is too small of a sizing for 4x here, for a full house, So I end up just flicking in the call. He says you're good, but I'm just kind of like waiting around. I don't really know what's going on. He eventually shows Jack 8 suited, so I mean, this just goes to show if they're just raising like even the Jack high diamond draws, they're probably just raising almost every diamond draw. And there's going to be a lot of those, right? So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that crazy of a hand. Pretty simple, but just don't fold when the value range is very narrow. I mean, that's kind of the case with this last hand too. And you're kind of at near top of range in any case. Ace king now, and the same guy that we just had won that pot off of in the last hand. He opens this time to 15. And then I 3-bet, he jams. It's a pretty easy call, I think. That said, we're probably not going to be ahead here very often, so probably just going to be flipping against a pair. If not, maybe we just are also against ace king here. But we've already got 50 in the middle, so can't fold ace king here to a 4-bet. He's got pocket nines, and he ends up holding. He goes here. Yes. So a little bit of a needle there, but it's okay. Now we've got king 9 on the big blind, and I'm thinking opens 25. He gets around to me, and I'm actually like contemplating whether or not I even call this here, especially to the 5x open. I don't know if these players are opening to a larger size with certain hands, but I decided to call. Flops king high, so check it over, and checks back. So it turns to 7. I mean, we could bet ourselves here, considering there's a lot of draws out there. I decided just to check. I think I checks back. And now at this point, we're pretty confident we have the best hand. So I decided to throw out just a smaller bet, hoping to get called by maybe a worse king. I don't know if he really would open those under the gun, but also just like 10x and anything else that we beat. So we get raised here, which is really interesting because I don't know what he's really repping. It's kind of just like pocket 10s and maybe like 10-7 suited, of which there's only 2 combos of. So I think it through, and I mean, if he has a better king X, he probably would have just bet on the flop, or especially on the turn when it's this wet. So I decided to flick in the call here, and interestingly enough, he's got king 9 offsuit, so kind of just like misinterpreting how strong his range was when he opens 25 under the gun. But yeah, we end up chopping this one. I really did not expect king 9 of all of his hands. I think king 10 could have been possible, so I guess we're a little bit lucky we didn't run into that. But I don't know, I think king 10 probably would have bet earlier. Anyways, chop that one. So yeah, these last 3 hands we've just been getting. I don't even know, once again, if this is a bluff or not. I guess it's probably for value since he's got top pair and he's checked all the way to the river. But, just like these players were just making the weirdest plays against me. Next hand, we've got ace 10 on the small blind. Limp from the button. Once again, I'm going too small here, but it's okay. We get a call, and we end up flopping top 2 pair. Pretty good. We check it over, and button goes 20. So could we raise right now? I mean, technically, yes. I don't know really what his range necessarily looks like on the button. I think it's going to be very wide, so maybe hands like Queen Jack for open enders, maybe just some Ace X. Problem is, if we raise, I don't know how often the Ace X is actually going to continue. And the Queen Jack would probably call, but at that point, we're really just targeting like 10-9 if we raise, so I think it's just fine to call here. We ended up boating on the turn, which is really nice. And button goes 20 again, so I think against this size, and with how strong our hand is, we just kind of have to raise here and hope he's got a 10, maybe a worse boat. I don't really think he has an ace very often, but if he does, I don't know how much more value we're going to get out of that anyways by just calling here. So I raised to 100. Kind of a bigger size. It's 5x, as you can see, but I think it's good considering the pot size. And I mean, I don't know if you could go larger here if you're just really trying to target like the 10x and worse boats. Just really trying to maximize value, but end up doing that. And then on the river, I go 200, so pretty big once again. But I mean, I think you could even go bigger here. Because if he calls the turn, right, if he has a misdraw, he's going to fold to any bet. If he has ace X, I mean, that's like the only reason to choose a size like this. Is just to hope that it calls. But I don't even know if ace X is going to call the check raise and then the $200 bet on the river. €200 bet on the river. And if he's got 10x, I don't know if he's going to fold to even an overbet. I don't remember how deep we were for this hand, but I think you could maybe just go like 350 here and still get called by 10x, especially against like a player who's limping and probably isn't making the most sound decisions. But he calls, and he ends up actually showing Queen 10. These suits are wrong, obviously, but yeah, so I think we probably could have gone bigger, especially considering how good his kicker was on his 10. But yeah, you just got to really consider like what's calling our raise here and how strong is that range, and therefore how big of a bet would that range likely call. So yeah, missed some value there, but it's okay. King Jack this time, and we're going against the cutoff again. Same villain from most of these hands that we've gone over recently. And I just decided to 3-bet this because this is a min raise, and we're on the button, so really just capitalize on our positional advantage, especially against this maybe like stickier, maybe a little bit of a fishier player. So he calls, and we just flop top 2, pretty good for us. And he donks into us, which is really weird. I think on a board like this, there's going to be a lot of straight draws, a lot of flush draws. So I think we can just fast play this one, honestly. So I end up raising. You maybe go a little bit bigger, like 175, 200, and still get calls, especially when he's going for this like 2/3 kind of sizing as a donk lead. But he calls and turns an 8. I've only got $200 left behind, so I mean, I could. He checks it over, by the way. I could just bet like 100, really trying to get calls from like worse hands. But I don't think. And also, if he's just got like a naked diamond draw, I don't think he's gonna call the jam. I mean, he shouldn't in any case. So that said, I don't really want to bet 100 and leave 100 behind. So I think this kind of is a mistake right here, where if I raise to 200 here, and he calls, the pot's gonna be $100 more, and then I'm only gonna have 150 left behind. So he's gonna be committed with diamond draws, with maybe some weaker hands that can actually call off here. So I end up stripping it, and he folds, which is unfortunate. Like I said, probably could have gone bigger on the flop and then just guaranteed that you get called by those draws on the turn here. A little unfortunate, but this is a very important lesson in paying attention to your stack size and trying to play a 2-street game when you're not very deep. Okay, this is a hand that I didn't even record after I played it, and I didn't even want to show. But we gotta make sure that we're actually learning from our hands. And this is not a terrible flop for us. We have a gut shot, backdoor flush draw. Button goes like full pot here. And, if he goes like 25, maybe you can throw this in as a bluff. You got the gut shot backdoor. But versus 50, I think maybe call and see a turn. But then again, maybe this is just too weak of a hand versus such a big bet. So I actually end up raising. I think I might be on winner's tilt at this point. And button pretty quickly calls. Turns a 5. So, I mean, at this point, we're just trying to rep like something good. And I go 250, just praying that he folds. And I'm like, he probably only has like 350 in his stack, so I can just call off if he jams. But in reality, he has 470 in his stack, and he just quickly ships that in the middle. So, yeah, I mean, even if he's got like top pair here, we don't even have the odds to call because we've got 4 outs. And he shows a queen. He claims he has queen 10 after the hand. As you can see, I got 9% equity, and I need 17%. So, yeah. I mean, if this was a diamond, then yeah, we could call. But we just do not have enough equity here, so I have to fold. He asks me what I had later on, and I told him I had a draw, and he's like, "Oh, a flush draw?" Like, yeah, no, I had a flush draw. Even though if I had a flush draw, I should have called. Yeah, so that was just terrible. I mean, let's go back here. So what are we doing here? This isn't even a committing size with our hand. Just don't raise the flop when people bet pot and you've got such a low equity draw. That's the real lesson here. Just like the worst hand that I've ever played at these higher stakes for me. So yeah, we end up torching like 400 euros worth of our profit. Not very nice. We would have actually had a pretty big win even after that ace king and the pocket king's hand, but instead I torch off all my profit. So this is the third day. Packed it up quickly after that last hand since, I realized I was not really playing my best. Pretty interesting setup here. We're on the big blind. I think we've got an easy call. We've got only like a 15 euro open from the hijack after 2 limpers. So we're getting an amazing price here. And yeah, we end up going 5 ways, and we flop bottom set, so very good for us. Now, often in these hands, I've just been checking out of position, usually because donk leading isn't necessarily a very good play most of the time. But in spots like this where you're 5 ways, I think the donk leading might actually achieve more than a check raise, because if somebody has a king, they're not going to fold to a donk lead here, and they might even raise you more often. So I actually end up checking here. I think that's a mistake. And then under the gun bets 20, and only the small blind calls. So then I'm like, okay, we got the hearts out there. I gotta raise it right now. I go 120, which is way too big, considering, I think at most you can go 100 here, but you're just like really hoping that King X hangs around and also heart draws. So maybe like 80 to 100 is a better sizing. But then under the gun and small blind fold, and under the gun shows the king of hearts, so just totally own me. They both like snap fold too, and then small blinds I go, oh, I had a king too. So they're basically just bonding over the fact that I got owned in this hand. Yeah, so just really poorly played by me. I should just donk led, and if you're gonna go for the check raise, you got to pick a size that guarantees that the king of hearts should definitely be calling. So yeah, that was pretty bad by me. And that was actually the last hand I played because I actually got a nosebleed. So that was probably just a sign that I needed to pack it up and take my $120 loss on the 3 sessions, which isn't too bad considering, I kind of got coolered by the aces and lost that flip. So I had a fun time. I will say I learned a lot of lessons. For one, players in Spain, at least the ones I played against, they act very quickly. They were turning kind of weird hands into bluffs, I guess, or maybe it was some really thin value. And also, don't be check raising gut shots and backdoor flush draws versus pot size bets. And then, trying to go for a non-committing bluff. But I also kind of just ran into top of range on that hand. But, maybe that could have been avoided if I just thought about why is this player betting full pot here? I don't know. Anyways, hope you guys at least got something out of this, and thank you for watching.